The Watcher on Hopkins Court, based on true events. The heat that summer on Hopkins Court wasn't just uncomfortable. It was heavy, suffocating, and absolute. Upstairs in the bedrooms, the air stagnant and thick, making sleep a distant luxury. The house itself was an old, eccentric build with a layout that never quite felt right. Downstairs, a massive, industrial-sized fan groaned in the well, fighting a losing battle against the midday sun. Eventually, the upstairs became entirely unlivable. Desperate for relief, I dragged myself downstairs to the living room couch. Down there, close to the floor in the faint draft of moving air, it was actually tolerable. For a few nights, it felt like paradise, until the house decided to wake up. I don't know what time it was when my eyes snapped open that first night. The house was dead silent, save for the rhythmic humming of the fan. Because of the strange architecture, the living room looked out onto two separate parallel walkways. One led toward the stairs, the other cut a dark path straight back toward the kitchen and the back door. Staring into the shadows of the kitchen walkway, my eyes caught a shape. A silhouette. It didn't belong there. I blinked hard, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, rationalizing it the way any teenager would. You're just exhausted. Your brain is playing tricks on you. I rolled over, buried my face back into the pillow, and went back to sleep. But a few nights later, the exact same instinct jolted me awake. My gaze immediately darted back to the kitchen pathway. The air in the room felt instantly colder, the ambient hum of the house fading into a distant ring. It was there again. This time, there was no denying it. It wasn't a shadow playing tricks. It was a small, distinct creature standing in the darkness of the walkway. Then, it raised an arm, and it waved at me. A bizarre wave of denial washed over me. Okay, I'm dreaming. This is a lucid nightmare. Just close your eyes, count to 3, and it'll be gone. I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing myself to take a breath, and opened them again. That was my mistake. It hadn't vanished. It had moved. In the split second my eyes were closed, the creature had crossed the room with impossible silent speed. Now, its face was inches from mine, hovering right over the edge of the couch. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded my chest. I didn't think. I just moved. I bolted off the couch, tearing through the strange corridors of the downstairs, and scrambled up the stairs as fast as my legs could carry me. I burst into my grandmother's room, my breath coming in ragged gasps, and terrified, I blurted out exactly what I had just seen. My grandmother didn't mock me. She didn't tell me it was a bad dream. She looked at me with an intense, knowing gravity. "Honey," she said calmly, though her voice carried a distinct weight. "Get the Bible and place it right in front of the doorway." Now, I wasn't religious then, and to be honest, I'm still not today. But in that moment, paralyzed by sheer adrenaline, I didn't care about theology. I wanted a barrier. I did exactly what she said, laying the book flat across the threshold. The strange comfort of having an action to perform, combined with my grandmother's absolute certainty, was somehow enough to finally let me drift back to sleep in her room. The real shock came the next morning. I woke up expecting my grandmother to laugh it off, or perhaps tell me she had just been trying to calm a hysterical teenager. Instead, she looked at me, her expression grim. "It came up here," she told me. She explained that later in the night, she had watched the exact same creature creep up the stairs and approach her bedroom, but it stopped dead at the threshold, right where the Bible lay on the floor. She described it perfectly, adding a detail I hadn't even been close enough to see in the dark downstairs. It had deep, bloodshot eyes. It stood there at the boundary, staring in at her with those crimson eyes, completely unable or unwilling to cross the line. After a long, agonizing moment, it simply vanished into the air. The lingering shadows. That was the only time the creature ever showed itself to me, but it was far from the only strange thing to happen within the walls of that house on Hopkins Court. Over the years, the memory has refused to fade, leaving behind a string of unsettling questions. Was it truly the presence of the Bible that held the entity at bay, acting as a spiritual barrier against something ancient and malicious? Or did my grandmother, deeply attuned to her own beliefs, read into the terror of the night and weave her own fears into the story? To this day, the truth remains locked in the shadows of that strange, split walkway home. But one thing is certain. Whatever was watching from the kitchen path that night, it was entirely, terrifyingly real.